So I am in charge of the sessions that nobody else really wants to take on because I used to be a youth pastor and I don't mind talking about all the things that nobody else likes talking about. So we're going to talk about money and sex. You know, one everybody is touchy about and the other one's about touching everybody. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully just your spouse, right? Hold on, we had some questions. I did want to see if we could maybe, so I'm going to answer this one. I think it goes for session 2. Oh, Mark, hold on, sorry. No, don't mess, I messed it up, guys. I'm terrible. What happens when you try to run too many things? Yeah, so when is it okay to send nude photos or videos of yourself to your husband? I didn't realize that we were just going to jump right in the deep end. You guys are fun. Yeah. So I think we'll cover this in a way next session. However, I would say that whenever by cover, I don't mean like give tips or anything. Okay, let's just be clear. I think the Scripture is pretty clear that the limit, short of inviting other people or pornography into your bedroom, is what both spouses are comfortable with. But I would also put the caveat, as someone jokingly mentioned, anything you send, other people can get. So perhaps if you are interested in this, there are photographers that specialize in these types of sessions. Women, they're called boudoir sessions. You guys are like, how do we know this? My wife is a professional photographer, so she has knowledge about the photography world that I did not have. I'm not saying that she will do those pictures or those sessions for you. I'm not my wife's business manager. You'll have to take that up with her. She's in the sound booth back there running the camera. So, so that would be what I would say. I'd say as far as okay, Scripture is very clear that your body belongs to your spouse. And the Song of Solomon, which we have done a very lengthy series on here, and it was a really good series, I think, is very encouraging of taking joy and delight in one another's bodies. Okay? So if you didn't know who I was and what I'm willing to talk about, now you do. And we may explore that further some in the next session. Okay, so money. Nobody really likes talking about money, do they? I grew up with a mom as a banker, so like money was always a thing in my family, in my household. When I was getting an allowance of $10, my mom was like making me save $2, and there were a lot of money principles established in my family very, very early on, and they've been a very good thing for me. But I realized that a lot of people, when it comes to money, it's one of those things where we don't talk about it. We hope there's enough of it. There's usually not. And really what I've noticed, while Pastor Brandon talked about the big high-level issues that lead to divorce, the outworkings of why people say they're getting divorced is money and sex. And it's not that you have too much of it, it's that you're not having enough of either. And so I really want to talk about how do we approach that? Because my guess is if I asked you and you were honest, most of you couldn't remember the last time you had and this word's important, you had a conversation about money. Not an argument, about a conversation about money. And for most of us, we don't have a plan for our money. We just kind of fly by the seat of our pants, really. For a lot of us, we have entered this relationship together. Like, everybody jokes about how for women, what's yours is yours and what's his is now yours. And so we've entered into this complex, complicated conversation where we're bringing all this baggage that's like I mentioned. We don't really know how to talk to one another. And then we're going to jump in and we're going to throw money into the mix, which is always a hot button topic. So we kind of go in there like deaf, dumb, and blind. But we've got love. Right? The electric company doesn't take love in payment. Just going to put that out there. And it's going to be like 12 degrees and sleeting tonight. So you probably are going to want heat in your house. So there's this matter of we've got to figure out the money thing. I think a lot of times for those of us who have toddlers or have had toddlers, we treat our money like we treat our kids, the problems at least. We ignore them and we hope they'll go away until eventually we just screaming about it or at it. Some of us, maybe we are screaming at our bank account like, no, where did all the money go? Right? And what we're finding out is that doesn't work. What that is, it's really a recipe for not we still do, but we don't anymore. Because money stress is unlike any other stress. We tend to carry it a different way. And the problem or the issue in a marriage is that there's somebody else to blame for all the money problems. Because if we're honest, we all waste money sometimes, right? We all flush it down the drain. And so there's always something you can point to that maybe your spouse shouldn't have gotten, shouldn't have spent money on. They didn't need that. So what are we going to do about it? Well, if you're taking notes, point one is in a huff. I feel like this is the way we approach money. Like, we're mad before we even have we start thinking about money, and we're mad. I'll open my wallet at a drive-thru, and I've got no cash left, and I'm going to be mad at Julie. Well, she didn't go in my wallet and take out, and that was my kids, right? My kids went in my wallet and took all my money. My kids actually do. They still, they walk by my daughter's 4. She's not got a theft problem, let me clarify. Change is shiny. She understands shiny things gets toys. Shiny stuff is laying on daddy's dresser. Well, he doesn't need it. It's not with him. Right? And so there it goes. I walk in and there's a $20 bill in my kid's piggy bank. I'm like, what? Where did this come from? You don't even get an allowance yet. Like daddy didn't even make that much money this week. But it's like we're constantly mad at each other about our money. I can't tell you, and it's like every couple thinks that they're the first people that have experienced it. Every couple that comes and talks to me or talks to Matt and Tabitha or talks to Pastor, they're like, we really fight about money. Like it's some revelation to us. Listen, let me just reassure you, every single couple in the world fights about money. They have thought about money. They don't know what they're doing. They've all been there. It's not new. But yet we view, I'm going to fall over this stuff, so let me just do this real quick. We view our spouse as the enemy in this. Somewhere along the lines, we forgot that, for the love of Pete, we're on the same team. The Bible even goes so far as to call us the same person. And Pastor Brandon hit at it, but listen, you're different people, okay? One of you is probably a spender and one of you is probably a saver. Like it took me a really, really, really long time with my wife to get her to understand that by going to the dollar store and buying 50 items, she was still spending $50 on stuff that we didn't need. And then we would go round and round because I would say, stop buying $5 shoes at Walmart that you have to replace every week and a half. Go buy a $100 pair of tennis shoes that's going to last you a year. Right? That's just my investing. That's my mindset. Her mindset was, how cheap can I get it? I'm not saying it's wrong because, listen, y'all, she found some crazy great deals on some really awesome stuff that we still have in our house and we still use all the time. But that should illustrate to you that there's a balance in the difference. The difference is important because what if we were both savers? Lord help, my kids would have one toy and that would be it, right? Not a toy day. We put money in your college fund and mommy and daddy's 401k, and don't worry, we're going to be able to pay cash for our house in 3 years. But you can't have any fun. Just go look at your walls. Here's one crayon out of the box of 24. When you use that one, you can have another one. Right? Like if we were both savers, my kids would be like, you guys suck. At the 4, right? She's like, I want a Mama and Papa's. They let me have the whole box of crayons. And they do, by the way, our kids' grandparents. Man, I hit the jackpot with my in-laws. That's a whole other conversation, though. Listen, guys, I don't know how many of you relate to sports, but I'm sure many of you do. If you want to win championships year after year after year, you better have a good offense and a good defense. The goal is the same, but the way they operate is very different. You're on the same team. You may be offense, you may be defense, but you're ultimately working together. And we've got to remember that. Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 19, verses 4 through 6, he says, have you not read? Now, where do we read that? Well, in Genesis chapter 2, verses 24. So right after God creates man, God creates woman, here is the marriage relationship. He says, now you're one. You're one. Not two different, you're one. Being made male and female, he said, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. Julie, can you turn my volume down a little bit more? I feel like I'm like echoey just a little. It's this idea, and now listen, I do not care for synchronized swimming. I don't even know how it got in the Olympics. What in the world? How do you guys decide that's what you want to do? I don't know, but that's the idea. The movement is so together that from one to the next, you really can't tell who is which or what part they're on. We've got to get on the same page. This is the part I tell people all the time that really, really hurts their feelings. To be on the same page, you need to be a couple with one bank account. I know this ticks people off. I don't care. Almost every couple that I talk to early on that has financial problems, they have separate bank accounts. And I'm not saying you can't make it work. But remember what Scripture says, right? What was two has become one. Let's just pretend this nice piece of insulation foam board is our one, okay? Let's say you are a little better than the average American family. So 2/3 of your expenses are covered by your income, right? And so you guys split that cost. That's gone every month. Well, then you have his money and her money. Let's say, for the sake of illustration, who do you want to make more money, him or her? Nobody cares? Brilliant. I love y'all people. All right. He makes that much and she makes this much, okay? And this is our money right here. But what happens when a joint thing comes up, a crisis comes up? What happens when other things come up? What happens when the water heater explodes? What happens when you need a new roof? What happens when Junior has to go to the doctor for the 4th time in 3 weeks? Who's paying for that? Yeah, us. With what money? So all of a sudden there's now an argument about whose us is going to be what. Or you split it and this money comes less and less and less and less. And then you begin to become bitter. Because it's like, well, this is supposed to be my money. You guys see the problem with this? It's not about us, it's about me. What we have done is we've decided that what no man should separate, we're going to make selfish and about us. Listen, you want to screw your marriage up, you want to screw your money up, and you want to screw your sex life up, make it about you. Even if you're an individual, you want to screw it up, make it about you and making you happy. You're going to have fights and you're going to have arguments, and next thing you know, you'll be at Lowe's and you'll be writing 2 separate checks for the same lawnmower, paying half and confusing the cashier. True story, I've seen this happen. No, it wasn't what she was confused by. I don't know that she could have made change anyway there, Brooke. But either way, and so, or what happens if you decide, okay, we'll split the utilities and you pay the power bill and I'll pay this bill. And, well, then people get mad because, well, your bill is more expensive than my bill. Turn the heat down because I don't want to pay for that bill. Like, in our minds, it seems like a good idea because, well, I earned that money. Well, great, but then doesn't that come back to the whole root of your marriage? Are you living for you or are you living for us? Back to selfishness. And so we've got to figure this out. We've got to stop the blame game, right? Like, well, you bought this pair of shoes and you paid this for that and you did this and you could have done that and you didn't need this and you never do this and it's my money and I forgot I bought this. And is it any wonder we're exhausted, ticked off, and annoyed by each other? Because that's all we do. I wonder sometimes if money makes us revert to 5-year-olds. Like, I'm just going to go tattletale, but there's nobody actually to tattletale on, so I'm just going to scream it out on the playground. And so we spend all of our time arguing because we're not communicating well. Listen, to jump ahead a little bit, you know why you're not having more sex in your marriage? When is the last time a financial argument ended well for you? You know, I can't believe you bought those shoes. Hey, you want to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Probably never. I heard an author say one time, he said, you can either be spending your time arguing about financial business or you can be in bed getting down to business. If we're communicating well, if we've got a plan in place, if we both are on the same team, we're on the same page, guess what we don't have to do? Argue about money. We know what the budget looks like. We know what the details are. We know where the money's going. No, her money, my money, it's our money. We've got to get there. Now listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I've only got I don't know. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it? I've only got like 20 minutes. I'm not going to be able to give you the key to financial success in 20 minutes. If I did, I would be a traveling speaker that is booked all the time. As somebody said upstairs in the men's session, if you've got too much money and too much sex, please get on stage and tell us because we want to get that. Right? So, shameless plug. Twice a year we do Financial Peace University. This one's supposed to be starting in March. Sign up for it. 9 weeks, it'll change your life. Now, it's not instant medicine, but it will put you on the right path. And I'm not offering you FPU light today. I'm not going to walk through all that, and I'm just not. But it's going to help. And so if we're going to get on the same page, if we're going to stop just showing up and arguing, then we really need a playbook. And that's where point 2, if you're taking notes, comes in. Hanging tough. What's that plan? If we need a playbook, what's that plan? Luke 14:28-30 says, which of you desiring to build a tower doesn't first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it or not? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish it. Listen, casting aside insurance and investments, again, FPU. Look, if you want to understand insurance, go to that class. Like, you'll walk out and go, I didn't even know it was possible to understand insurance. Now I can explain it to people. Go to FPU. But casting aside those two things, money is not complicated. It's just hard. You know why? Because being good with your money requires you to have self-control, which, by the way, is a fruit of the Spirit. Not only does it require you to have self-control, it requires your spouse to exercise self-control. So now the two of you have to come together as one, and you have to decide what matters, and then you have to actually act on those decisions. Right? If we say, hey, we're going to spend $10 a month on junk food at the convenience store, well, I can't go in and spend $12. Self-control. I don't care that the candy bars are 3 for $1 or whatever. It's self-control. You've got to begin to exercise some of that. See, when you say I do, you are agreeing to build something. You wanted to build a life. You wanted to build a family. You wanted to build a home. You wanted to build a future. And most of all, you were saying we're going to build a legacy. It's a lot of building. And all that's going to cost you. It's going to cost time. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost effort. It's going to cost energy. So let me ask you an important question. In all of this I do and this planning, did you ever stop and ask your spouse what their dreams were? Hey, we're going to do life together, but where do you want life to go? What's that look like? My guess is no, because most of us, we just skip over it. We just assume that my dreams become our dreams, and we forget there's a whole other set of my dreams coming into the picture. You can't build and plan for a house without a floor plan. You got to have the dreams. You got to talk about it. And maybe that's a really great place for you to start tonight when you go on your date night. Spend some time dreaming. Even if you had that conversation, maybe it's been 9, 10 years since you've had it. What are your dreams now? You know, when we got married, Julie really wanted to travel. I couldn't give a rip about traveling, y'all. I don't care. I mean, I go places, but like it's not a bucket list for me. Like Israel, I'd love to go to Israel. That's about it. You know where Julie wants to go? Well, a map up on the wall, throw a dart at it. Even if it's in the middle of the ocean, she wants to go there. I knew that about her. We had talked about that. I mean, she's been all kinds of great places through God's provision in that. While I stayed home, it was great. Sometimes a trip for one's like vacation for two. Y'all know what I'm saying? She's going to be up here with me on session 4. She may smack me a few times. I don't know. We'll see. But because we had sat down and we had talked about it, we knew. But see, it was important for me because as a pastor's wife, it would be unfair of me to ask her to marry me without having that conversation. Say, are you prepared to enter ministry? It's a whole different world. If you've never been in it, you can't relate. But we dream. We still dream together. We still talk about it. And she is much more the pie in the sky. I'm going to have these big dreams. I'm an administrative. We're going to get there. You know, like, hey, I want to do this. Here's a 3-step plan to get there, babe. Let's do it. That's me. But we still talk about that. We still spend some time. So maybe that's where you start. What do your dreams look like together? Look, guys, his and hers works awesome for toothbrushes and denture holders. Like, seriously, my great-grandparents, I was little, I didn't get it. They had these 2 containers on the sink in their bathroom, and it said his and her chopper hopper. I didn't get it. Till much later, and I was like, oh, that's hilarious. But his and hers dreams don't really work in a marriage. Because you might as well tie a rope to each of your waist and run opposite directions. And see who can pull each other the furthest till you get tired, fed up, and cut the rope. You need to have our dreams. And that's the problem, or the next thing that makes it challenging. Not only does money take self-control, being married and talking about money is going to take sacrifice. Because I'm not saying we've got to give up some of our dreams, but we are going to have to prioritize them. We have to slot some different things in different orders. One of the biggest points of contention that I see in counseling couples who are in pre-marriage counseling, figuring out what dreams go where. You would think it's the simplest thing, but like sometimes there's knockdown dragouts over the smallest of things. Because what one spouse sees as so important, the other one doesn't see as important, or the timetable is different. And so you're going to have to sacrifice. Listen, when 2 become 1, you may have to decide that what you want to do slides down the list. And men, let me just say a word here. You should be sliding your stuff down the list. Not everything. But as men, if we are to love our wives as Christ loves the church, we should be sacrificing for the good of our spouses and our families. Look, I meet a lot of guys who are willing to die for their families. I don't meet a lot of guys who die daily for their families. I don't meet a lot of guys today who say, I'm going to put my wife and kids first. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to come home. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to play with my kids. I'm going to help cook dinner. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And let me give you a hint. If you do that, your money might not go up, but your sex life probably will. Just honest thoughts there. I'm totally off script in case you're wondering. I've just wandered into, sorry, Matt, I don't know if I'm messing this up or whatever, but so what are we talking about? Dreams, right? All right. Here's the thing, guys, about making a priority list. You're not in this marriage for the sprint. You're in this marriage for the long haul. My parents have been married like 30 years. My dad's my stepdad. We've had conversations about that already. And the things that, I laugh and joke with my parents now because like when I graduated college and got married and moved out, and my sister graduated. They got a pool. He got a motorcycle. I'm like, they're like, well, we can afford it now, you know? Like, they were in it for the long haul. This is not a sprint. But do you know what the difference between a dream and a goal is? It's the plan. You can dream all day, but until you put a plan in place, you're never going to reach those dreams. So let me give you like a quick and dirty basic principles. Again, take FPU. Are you sensing a theme here? Take FPU. I teach FPU, so you know it'll be fun. You can laugh at me. I'm going to go off script and say dumb things. It'll be great. Number one, give. I know that seems weird and seems wrong, but look, Scripture is very clear. The only thing God says to test him in is his generosity. Give. Look, my mom was a single parent with 2 kids. She could barely afford to, she missed a lot of meals while we ate. We lived with my grandparents. If it wasn't for my dad beginning to date my mother and buying my sister and I coats and winter clothes, I'm not sure we would have had things. West Stanley Christian Ministries is near and dear to my heart because the one up near where I lived clothed me and fed me some. And yet my mom continued to give, and God continued to bless her and continued to provide ways to take care of us. You can know people, and they will tell you the same over and over and over again. Give and see what happens. Number 2, get out of debt. Listen, debt is dumb, okay? Yeah, cash is king. Let's see. He's going to teach FPU. He just doesn't know it yet. I know it's the way our society lives. It's stupid. Just because you can afford the payment doesn't mean you can afford the item. It's dumb. Look, I can't tell you how many times I see people financing TVs and just all kinds of ridiculous stuff. Get out of debt. Just go home and like get a symbol of what equals your total monthly income. Then take your debt and cut that chunk. What would it be equal? And just slide it to the side. That's what you're working for, just to give somebody else. That's how dumb debt is. And the people you see like shaking their head, they've been through FPU and they're like, yep, it's life-changing. It's weird, but I mean, the whole world's weird. You might as well be a sensible kind of weird. Get out of debt. It's stupid. It's dumb. You don't need it. Caveat, houses are a different conversation, okay? Different conversation. Although I think you should pay them off as quickly as possible. Number 3, make a budget. This is the game plan. Make a budget. And stick to the budget. You should live on less, this is not popular in the U.S., live on less money than you make. If you need more money, go get a different job. But more than likely, you need to stop spending so much on some unnecessaries. Live on less than you make and prioritize the things that matter. And then finally, here's the hard part. This is why money is hard. Stick to the plan. Look, I can't tell y'all how look, I'm a true country boy, and so, you know, there's a lot of things that I like about the country, guns being one of them. See, it's another thing you can't say in certain churches. Hi, welcome to New Life. We like guns. When we first got on our budget, like for 3 months in a row, somebody offered me like really good deals on guns that I really like because they're guns and I like all guns. And yeah, see, that'll preach. That's in First Opinions, by the way, if you're looking for that. And I had to say no. Like, that's heartbreaking. Like, I was like, in my spirit, I'm like, oh, I'm crushed. Thinking like, who can I call that can buy this so at least I can shoot it, right? Like, that's what I'm thinking. And I had to say no. And like, it's hard to stick to the plan. And Julie gives me a grief now because we don't even talk about our budget all that much. Matt's like, oh, gosh, they're not following the plan. I don't need to. We know what it is. I don't even have to think about it now. It's just innate. That's the plan. That's what we can spend. That's what we've got. So get on the plan and stick to the plan. Listen, it takes discipline. But in life, I figured out you can either experience the pain of discipline and reap the rewards, or you can not and just be disappointed and be stuck where you are. Get on the same page and stay on the same page. That brings us to the third and final point this morning. We're going to call it God's stuff. We got this twisted idea that my stuff is my stuff. Newsflash, it's not. Whatever you have because of the goodness of God. And at this point, somebody always says, but I work hard for my stuff. Right, but who enabled you to work hard for that stuff? Who made you? Who gave you the skills and abilities? Well, I learned it in school. Well, who gave you the opportunity to go to school? You know, if you're in Haiti, like Matt mentioned, all school is private, and you better be able to come up with a lot of money to go to school to get that education. You have what you have because God is who He is, and He has blessed you richly to bless others. It's amazing how when you start to have that idea, that mentality, you can just let stuff go. Listen, I'm not like a selfish person, but I'm not naturally a generous person. I just always assume that, this is going to sound really bad coming from the pastor, right? I just always assume that people are like homeless because of their own decisions, or they're just going to go waste the money I give them on drugs and alcohol. You know, I work hard for my stuff. Why don't you work hard for you? I just always assume those things. It's part of who I am. I was born on a farm, man. At 4 years old, you start working and you don't stop working until you're dead. It's just the way farm life is. It's the way I was raised. It's who I am. And yet, and this is one of the greatest things my father-in-law has ever taught me. Generosity is not always about the result, but mostly about the heart. And so I had to have a long, difficult moment with myself and ask myself, is my stuff really that important? Again, going back to the fact that God owns it all and He's given it to me. And He says, for those of you who are responsible, I will give more, right? That's what the parable of the talents says. Now, I'm not talking about all this crazy, nonsensical Joel Osteen and Benny Hinn, none of that. God says, when you are faithful with what I have given you, you will be blessed with more. When you have proven that you can manage what you have in a godly way, then I will increase your stuff in order for you to bless more people. It's kingdom math. It's the way that it works. And I think Paul does a great job in 1 Timothy of reminding a young Timothy that, hey, brother, you're only going to take with you when you leave what you brought in with you. Reminds me of a story of a guy who stuffed his attic full of chests of money, and that way, as he left the earth, he could take it with him. And he passed away one day, and the wife went up a few days later, and all the money's still there. And she said, I knew he wasn't going that way. Right? Yeah. Or the guy who finally negotiates his way in with Peter at the gates, and he's allowed to bring one suitcase, and he shows up with a suitcase full of gold. Peter goes, you brought pavement? All right, the streets are paved in gold. You got to know a little bit about Revelation to get that joke. I think that went over everybody's head. But the point, or it wasn't funny, I don't know, it's fine too. The point is we spend so much time and so much energy and so much of our lives on something that God has in such abundance that He can just walk on it. You ever think about that? And I realize Revelation is simply an image, right? It's probably not descriptively 100% accurate. I don't know that they're walking on gold, but the principle is still the same. I guess what I'm saying is if you want to get your money right, you need to be prepared to be generous and sacrificial the same way that God was generous and sacrificial. Because really, marriage isn't about my fulfillment or my happiness. It's about communicating a message to the world about who Christ is. My marriage should reflect the relationship between Jesus Christ and the church. It should be one of self-sacrifice. It should be one of love. It should be one of grace. It should be one of forgiveness. And without God, you can't offer love correctly. You can't extend grace properly. And you're not going to sacrifice willingly for one another. It's not going to happen. Because what the Holy Spirit will allow us to do is to squash pride and get priorities right and ultimately to deny myself. And that's how you're going to get God at the center of not just your marriage, but your money. I would remind us that Jesus says, where your stuff is shows where your heart is. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that stuff, that money is evil. People misquote that verse all the time. It says the love of money is evil. Look, I've known some really, really great people that you wouldn't know had a dime. They were filthy rich, and they were some of the most generous people I've ever known. In FPU, Dave Ramsey tells a story of a guy who dropped 70 grand on buying bicycles for a community. Never even batted an eye. Money just makes you more of what you already are. If you're selfish and self-centered, more money will just make you more selfish and more self-centered. And it'll never make you happy. So I guess the question is, and my mic keeps cutting out. Sorry, guys. I guess the question is, does your money show a couple united together, responsibly managing God's stuff in a way that someone on the outside could say is both generous and sacrificial? So let me remind you, you're on the same team. Make a plan and stick to it. Focus that plan on the way that God would have you manage your finances. And you may just be able to watch your life grow. Talk about it. Don't fight about it. Be prepared to give instead of demand. Do we have some? I think we got some questions real quick. Matt, can I answer these questions? No way. Really? I got more time, guys. Oh, okay. So the same. How do I sign up for FPU? Will we meet in person or online? We will meet in person here at the church. I think our tentative plan is for Friday nights, but we're not sure yet. That will come out in the next couple of weeks. You can sign up online, newlife247.com/events, or just go to newlife247.com and click events. In the app, there will be a thing that says events. Click FPU. You can sign up for that. Or there is, as you walk out these doors, there's that iPad mounted to the wall that is a registration kiosk. It will be there as well. If all else fails, email missions@newlife247.com and say, help, technology is not my friend, FPU. You don't actually have to say it just like that. But it is 9 sessions. There is a slight cost to it for your materials. How much does that cost, Matt? $100 for your materials. Yeah, $100 a couple. And a year subscription to the budgeting tool that Dave Ramsey recommends. You can find $100, and it's worth it. If you absolutely cannot find $100, go talk to Matt, okay? He got all kinds of money, y'all. Don't y'all know that? No, but really, we feel like you... Just like any other thing, we want you to invest because of what you're going to get out. It's a good ROI. For those of you who don't know what that means, return on investment. I will tell you that my wife and I invested in it. Julie, how much debt have we paid off in a year and a half? How much? Almost $30,000. And listen, I'm a preacher and she's a teacher, so y'all know we ain't rolling money in. All right? She's a teacher in Stanley County. She don't even make like a good local supplement. Come on, Stanley County, get that together. Listen, I'm good. Matt, what time's our break scheduled for? 5? Y'all want me to let you go early, or you have any questions that you just want to shout to me about anything? I'm more than willing to, as you can tell, talk about anything. Yeah. I always tell the students when I was student pastor, don't ask something you don't want answered because I'm probably going to answer it, and it might embarrass you. Anybody? All right. Huh? I do, yeah, occasionally. Brandon doesn't let me on stage very much because no, I'm just kidding. No, we're very blessed to have 3 good, excellent communicators here. So Brandon does a majority of the teaching, and then Eric, the discipleship pastor, and myself, we share some of that load. We probably preach together 12 times a year or so. That gives Brandon 40, but don't tell him I told you. He's a little nervous. Our new student pastor is going to be preaching the week of 4th of July, so we're going to get he's going to get initiated as well. So I get the opportunity some here. I'm really blessed in that. Anybody else about anything? Yeah, all right, cool. So I'm going to give you some extra time, and then we're going to come back. So if you want to come back just a little bit early, we're going to be talking about sexual intimacy. It's going to be a 4-person panel. My wife, Julie, will be up here with me. And Matt and Tabitha will be up here. And we'll be kind of talking through conversation, fielding some questions if you would like. And I will reiterate, don't ask it if you don't want me to answer. Okay? Deal? All right, you guys take a break, get some coffee, whatever, get some snacks. Women's this way, men's this way for the bathroom. Tab's got one thing. Okay, for those of you who didn't hear, there are some marriage resources out here. Tab is now set up to take anything and help you get those checked out, all right? Ready, break.